All right, Shalom. First and foremost, of course, want to start off by giving all praise to Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai, Yahweh, which is the name of the Most High, and Yahushai, which is the name of the only begotten Son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. This is going to be Bible, Bible Talk, Salakia, 2, right? Bible Talk 2, right? Just to be a little series. You could probably check out the playlist. I'll probably put the videos in the playlist. But one thing I wanted to talk about real quick is the mind of God hit me up just the other day with a comment. He asked a question revolving around you know, well, it says when Yahweh returns that the world will be in peace. And I told him, you are right. The world is going to be in peace. Okay, when Christ returns, the world is going to be, let's put it this way. Here is the timeline. Okay, if this makes sense, because he always asked, what's the end times timeline? This is what it is, brother, which is me speaking as a man. I'm not saying that this is, thus saith the Lord. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying this is what I make sense, looking at the Holy Scriptures. Okay, this is how I view it. Okay, we're coming right now into the time of Jacob's trouble, which will be what? The next Great Depression and a time of civil unrest, therefore fulfilling Daniel, the 12th chapter, 2nd Ezra 15:16, right? A time of trouble like never before, right? Friends shall kill each other for food, as it says, right? Neighbors shall kill each other with the sword. That has to happen. So I have to ask you guys that disagree, well, when did that happen? And if it has not yet happened, when is it going to happen? And once we figure that out, then we can explain the rest of the, the timeline once we figure that out. Okay, but anyway, from that time of trouble, okay, you're going to come across what? The time of the mark of the beast, which is the microchip. Okay? And then when people get the microchip, their lives are going to be able to go back to somewhat normalcy. Okay? And from that time, up until the coming of Christ, of course, there'll be conflicts and, stuff going on. But the interesting thing is that if you look at, right, with Babylon, right, America, when it's being destroyed, the prophet describes, ships that are bringing merchandise to America. So I had to ask the question is, wait a second, if America is in, total SHTF, right, everything, is in chaos when Christ returns as Christianity teaches, well, wait a second, why are ships bringing merchandise to sell? If there's, first of all, no workers, because everything's in chaos, so how could they be bringing, merchandise to sell in America if it's all SHTF going on? So clearly that wouldn't make sense. So when the Lord returns, America, right, Babylon the Great, is going to be in a time of normalcy, right? Business as usual, but it's going to be what? With the mark of the beast, right? So we got to first go through a time of trouble, but then from that time of trouble, we'll bring the mark of the beast. And then, of course, there'll be, conflicts, stuff going on, up until the coming of Christ. But I'm just saying, it won't be as terrible, because if that's the case, well, then why are merchants bringing merchandise to sell in America if it's full out SHTF going on? That just doesn't make logical sense. Okay, so, just to answer that question that he hit me up with, okay, that clearly, is cut to the bone, man. Okay, then you have, other cats out here, like, what's that cat? Teachers of the Truth. That guy's on there teaching that, the mark of the beast is paper money. I mean, brother, how the hell does that even make logical sense? If even back in the time of Christ, right, they used coins, right? The coins were, imprinted with the image of the emperor of the city or nation that is minting the coins. Okay? So, somebody can say, well, they didn't use paper money. Well, paper money's been around, for a very long time as well. We're talking about, well, I believe 1,000 years, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it was the Chinese who actually created the paper. You can look that up. But it's been around a hell of a lot of time, paper, man. Okay, and they had some type of paper money back then. You can, as I said, just look into it. Look up ancient Chinese money. All right, paper money. You'll see it. You'll see it. Okay, so was that the mark of the beast well back, in that time? We're talking well over, 1,000 years ago or whatever, 800 years ago, 700 years ago. I mean, you're telling me the mark of the beast was around back then? How? The beast wasn't even, you know, um, in power at that time. So if that's the case, then how the hell was it around back then? So that brother clearly got cut. Um, man, as I said, these guys, these doctrines just keep getting more crazy and crazier, man. Okay, these, false doctrines. I mean, hell, I was just having a discussion the other day in the, comment board with somebody. They were saying that all nations can receive salvation. Or they were saying that all nations can receive salvation. I believe it was my brother Mike. All right, Mike was on there saying that. Which he knows some stuff, but he needs to. He don't know everything. We'll say that he still has some stuff to learn, but he's a very sincere brother. So hey, there's no harm done in asking questions. He was just saying that how can if all nations come of Adam, how did some nations not be able to receive salvation, but other nations can? And I perceive he was being very sincere with that, so I answered, yes, it is true that all nations do come of Adam, and that's in the Apocrypha, 2nd Ezra, the 6th chapter. That is true, but Abraham, right, unto Isaac and Jacob, they were chosen to be the Lord's, the nation that the Lord was dealing with, right? Because Jacob's name was changed to Israel, right? So Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right, and from them, the Lord was dealing with them. Okay, but then he brings up, what about Noah and the men that, were righteous back in that time? How could they be saved if, the Lord did not yet choose Israel? Well, the answer to that question is very simple because, those guys, remember, the elect was sealed from the beginning of the world, right? The elect was sealed from the beginning, the 144,000, and the remnant, they were already sealed from the foundation of the world, is what the scriptures say. So the Lord ordained those men to be righteous. Okay, so therefore they will receive salvation. That's just as same as saying, well, David and Solomon and all the righteous men over Israel. Well, none of them are going to be saved because Christ did not die for their sins then, because that was before Christ. So that means they can't receive salvation for their any of the sins that any of those men committed. But why that is and seems to be a very valid argument, we know that's not true. Why? Because remember, those men were all ordained by the Most High, right? And were set up to, receive salvation. Okay, so yes, that is a very valid, viewpoint on it. And very good question, right? Which, needs a, good answer, which I believe I have, given. Okay, and then, I gotta also say something about this. I was watching this the other day. Sakari, did a debate. I believe it was, Hassad and, Gorilla, right? Gorilla Hebrew. They were on the panel with a bunch of Christians, and the topic of polygamy came up. Okay, and that was actually a very good discussion. I'd recommend everybody watch that video. That was a very entertaining and informative lesson and discussion that they did. Okay, which the women were on there saying, I feel that, that it's not right. And then one of the women brought up King Solomon and said, well, King Solomon and King David, they went off because they were sleeping with all these different women. So they all went off. No, that's not true. David, what his sin was, he slept with a woman who was married to another man. So what did the Lord do? The Lord killed his child that was born of that woman. Okay, because if you read the story, what ends up happening, I forget the names, but I do remember the story. What happened was David liked this woman, right? So what he did is he slept with her. Then he found out that she was with a man. So what he did is when Israel went to war, he had the man put at the front of the army so that the man would die. So then David could take his woman, to be his wife, and it would be lawful because the man was dead. So, he did that, and the Lord was displeased with that. So the Lord ended up killing King David's, son. Okay, and King Solomon, if you go to, what is that? I believe it's the book of First Kings, the 11th chapter, if I'm not mistaken. It says that a Solomon's sin was following after the gods of the other women. The other nations, Lakia. That's what Solomon's sin was. He followed after the gods of the other nations. Okay, so it wasn't his woman that he had that made him sin. It was because he followed after the idols, the gods of the other heathen nations. Okay, just to edify anybody that was interested in learning about that. That was the sin of King Solomon and King David. Okay, it wasn't the woman. All right, it was, they went off and did other things. Right, Solomon followed the heathen gods, and King David slept with a married woman. Okay, and killed her husband. Okay, that's what the sin was. So anyway, I hope that was edifying. Anybody that made it this far into the video, put hashtag King David in the comment section just to see if anybody made this far into the video. And I'm going to say shalom.